Now, later in this same scene, Mike is he's shown Bob's wanted poster, to which he responds, "This is the true face. This is his true face, but few can see it. The gifted and the damned." And I laugh every time I see this because, a creative switcheroo has for sure taken place at the last minute, and the joke is on us as the audience, because it's as if suddenly out of nowhere we're in Twin Peaks, and then you snap your fingers and we're watching an episode of Scooby-Doo. The gifted and the damned. As ridiculous as this scene feels to me, however, it offers an interesting clue as to the meaning of the phrase "firewalk with me," if there's any meaning to be had, if we just want to play with meanings for a bit. At least meaning in terms of the more conventional and cliche themes of demonic possession and that sort of thing. So by episode 6 of the second season, it really does feel like a mutiny of sorts has occurred on the set of Twin Peaks, where the writing and dialogue takes on a completely different direction, especially when compared to the first season. Having said that, we can still have fun with it, right? It's like going to a terrible movie, and instead of being upset that you spent money on a terrible movie, you can just kind of sit there and just have a laugh. That's kind of my attitude. So at the end of the day, it's still Twin Peaks, right? And so let's just go with it, if for no other reason than to expand our creative awareness and have some fun with theories. However, if analyzing Twin Peaks has taught me anything, it's that our obsession with meaning can greatly diminish our ability to simply observe and allow something to communicate to us in ways that transcend the conscious problem-solving mind. It's a state of mind which all too often succeeds in reducing everything down to some neatly categorized and soulless mechanical parts that are devoid of any sense of mystery and wonder. That strange sense of beautiful ambiguity, after all, is the very reason Twin Peaks is so compelling in the first place, and why the second season in large part seems a wildly contradictory notion. Now, one thing Mike says in this scene, however, seems to lend some meaning to the term "firewalk with me," so we're going to look into that, especially when we follow this whole theme of spirits and conjuring familiars. Mike's soliloquy from Agent Cooper's premonition seems to have been written in the show post facto as a ritualistic spell or incantation aimed at bringing in the spirit of Bob into a nefarious partnership or service to Mike. Mike mentions that Bob requires a human host and that he feeds on fear and the pleasures. They are his children, which leads me to interpret "firewalk with me" as an invitation from Mike to Bob to join the conjurer in his firewalks. Firewalk is both destructive as well as rejuvenating. Firewalk refers to the cycle of birth and death. It means to enter the mortal realm, a place of creation, sensation, and passion, and then to destroy it, and so that it may be renewed again. So it's really referring to a never-ending cycle. In other words, our mortal realm, in its most basic structure, exists as a place where the generative force of creation meets the force of entropy, of which there is a fine line, and where both extremes may be experienced simultaneously. Feeding on fear and pleasures, as Mike says, means to engage in both destructive or fear-inducing activities, murders, possessions, and the like, as well as a place where one can engage in the passions of the flesh and light and all of those things, which hints at the razor's edge or sliver of existence that we know as life. Which is to say that these spirits are attempting to experience that which we humans take for granted. The Black Lodge existing on one extreme of entropy, while the White Lodge existing on the other extreme of the generative source. Each respective realm having its own qualities, but incomplete and lacking in and of themselves, only offering an empty shell of existence on either extreme, but offering the full, when in comparison to the full depth of life offered between these two worlds, right? The world we inhabit. With the realm we inhabit nestled precariously in between the White and the Black Lodge, resulting in an existence filled with all of life's possibilities that simply cannot exist or be experienced incarnate anywhere else. A mortal realm where both extremes of the passions of creation and the horrors of destruction may be experienced and perhaps simultaneously, but much of the time existing comfortably between these two extremes where the full depth of experience can be realized, which makes the realm we inhabit a really sort of special chocolate meets peanut butter kind of sweet spot, existing nowhere else among the 9 or so realms of conscious awareness that the great Maharishis, the great mystics and seers have spoken about and written about over the course of human history. Which would explain why the spirits of the Black Lodge and perhaps of other realms would be so curious or perhaps envious, even of even some obsessed with possession of the human form, just like Bob is. So it may very well explain why Mike caused his host to remove his own arm, which could have been an attempt by a spirit to experience the full depth of human suffering in hopes of truly experiencing this world. And of course, not being from this human realm, on the outside looking in, spirits lack any true understanding of what it's like to exist in this realm, hence Bob's extreme behaviors in his attempts to assimilate the experiences of this world. And of course, Mike coming back to some sort of reasonable understanding of what it's like to inhabit this world after removing his arm, understanding, oh, okay, so that's not really where, sensation for sensation's sake is not where it's at. Okay, I understand I have a lot more to learn about this human game, hence him being a shoe salesman and working from the ground up and trying to understand the human game, right? So that's how I interpret it. And of course, familiars are commonly known to shapeshift between human and animal form, which lends credence to the phrase, the owls are not what they seem, or at least that's one meaning among many. Now, Bob, being from the Black Lodge, presumably means that all he knows is the dynamic of entropy or destruction, or that's all he's familiar with. So he is merely interpreting the mortal realm through the eyes of his homeworld, which causes me to think deeper about the nature of good and evil.